It's not great idea. All right. The I have my doubts. I will say. All right. So yesterday we talked about how plants reproduce. They reproduce sexually. They have pollen that fertilizes a little egg cell. So genes from two different parents combine. It's really just like any other form of sexual reproduction where you have a cell from one parent combining with a cell from another to form the offspring. And so the offspring in plants have combinations of traits from each of the parents just like they do in other animals. So in humans, it's 23 chromosomes in the sperm cell, 23 in the egg cell, and 46 in the zygote. For plants, it's different numbers, but the idea is the same. Half the chromosomes in a plant came from the pollen grain, and half came from the egg cell. So what Mendel found, when he looked at the pea plants, he looked at their height or the flower color. He came up with this idea that all of those traits were controlled by two what he called factors. Today we call them genes. He didn't know anything about genes at the time. He didn't know about DNA, it hadn't been discovered, and it wouldn't for another 100 years. He didn't know about chromosomes. He just came up with his ideas based only on the data he collected from these pea plants. But today we call them genes. So for example, the color of the flowers in a pea plant is controlled by two genes. And for many traits, there are two versions, a dominant version and a recessive version. You could think of the dominant version kind of as the stronger version, the form that kind of shows through. And you can think of the recessive version as kind of the weaker form, the form that the gene that can kind of get covered up. When we're talking about genetics, we often use letters to represent the genes. And when we're talking about the dominant version, we always use a capital letter. For example, in the pea plants, their height, tall is the dominant gene. So we use a capital T to represent the gene for a tall plant. Uppercase because it's the dominant version. We use the first letter of the word usually. The recessive form, the weaker form, we write as a lowercase letter. This is going to be tricky. But what letter do you think we would use for a short pea plant? Anna? What kind? Actually, no. So every single class today gave you the same answer. Not quite. You're getting closer. Any other guesses? Dan?
Lowercase t.
Yes. We use the same letter we used for the dominant version, but we make it what? Lowercase. So we use a lowercase t to represent the short version. So we always are using the same letters. We just use a lowercase version. So when we're talking about a pea plant, if you look at any pea plant, each one has two genes for how tall the plant is. And there's three combinations you might have. So some pea plants might be pure dominant. What do you think that means? What two genes do they have if they're pure dominant? Just based on what those words mean. What do you think they would have? Hey? Pure dominant. So, Jacob?
Has two tall plants.
Two tall genes, yes. Big T, big T. Again, pure meaning it has the same, and dominant meaning uppercase. What about a pure recessive plant? What letters do you think a pure recessive plant would have? Maggie? Yeah, 2 lowercase t's. And then we have one other possibility. What's the other possibility of genes that we might have? John?
I don't know if this is right, but is there one that's like uppercase T and lowercase T?
Yeah, one of each. We have a word for that. We call it, you know what, Dan? Yeah, it's called a hybrid. It has one uppercase T and one lowercase t. Now here's the thing. It doesn't matter what order they are in. We usually write the capital one first. So those are our 3 possibilities. Now let me ask you this. This pea plant that has 2 big T genes, what do you think its height is? There's 2 big T genes based on what we just talked about. What's its height? Jacob? Not extra tall, it's just tall. It's tall.
Oh, really?
How about this plant?
Oh.
It's short. Now here's where things get tricky. How about this one?
Medium.
That's what people said every class day, but it's not. It's not medium. Nope. Jen? Nope.
No,
Tall.
baby.
It's tall.
How?
So you.
Well, because
So
it
why?
can be small. Dominant.
Why?
Because you said that the weak one can easily come back.
Yeah. If it gets one of the dominant genes, the dominant is the stronger form. It kind of covers up the recessive gene. So as long as it has one of the dominant gene, that's what shows through. So this plant is tall. It's just as tall as this one. They're the same height. So if it has one of the dominant genes, that's what shows through. Now, we talk about in genetics, when we're talking about an organism, we can talk about its phenotype and its genotype. The phenotype is the physical appearance. So it's sort of how the genes translate into real life. It's always a word, like purple flowers, tall plant, blonde hair, green eyes.
I have white eyes.
So phenotype describes what the organism looks like, how the genes translate. So what do you think genotype is? Yeah, it's the symbols. It tells you what actual letters does it have. What's its genetic makeup? Like big T, little b, whatever the genes are. It's the actual genes that it has. What's that? It doesn't matter. They're just examples.
Come on, man, try.
Like B might be for gene for blue eyes, and T might be gene for tall or short. Blonde hair, brown hair. What's that? So if we look at these 2 plants, now let's go back and talk about the height. What is this plant's phenotype? Raise your hand if you can tell me. What is its phenotype? All right, anyone? Some more people here. I've heard from Dan and Jacob and Anna.
And maybe hear from me a little bit.
Once.
No, I had the best. I
Anyway.
had the shortest kid in the class.
So what would its phenotype be? Rachel. It'd be, yeah, we're just talking about its height. So what did you say? Yeah, it would be tall. Yeah. It's a tall plant. That's its phenotype. What genotype would give a tall plant? Chris? Well, they're all T's, but so tell me big or little. 2 capital T's, right. Is there another combination that would also give me a tall plant? Jamie? Correct. So either of these genotypes results in a tall plant. What's the phenotype of this plant over here? Maggie? That's short. What genotype would result in a short plant? Jenna?
Wait, I have a question.
Okay, answer first.
TT
only combination, it's going to give you a short plant. What was your question?
Why does the T uppercase T or lowercase T, like, why does that happen if the B is small?
We'll see that in the next slide after we have a little break.
Punnett Squares.
Oh, I know how to do it.
Are any questions up till this point? All right, we're going to leave your notes out because we have one more slide to do after, but I want to take a second here and review something.
Is this called Punnett Squares?
All right, now this last section here, this is, guys, Joe,
Grow up.
this is what Mendel found after doing these thousands and thousands of crosses between plants, is he found there were certain patterns, certain ratios, that when you had these two parents, you always end up with similar ratios of traits in the offspring. And that allowed people to start to understand how these characteristics are passed on from parents to their offspring. And another guy, Reginald Punnett, came up with this tool we use, a diagram, very simple, that allows us to look at the parents' genotypes and then predict what the genotype of the offspring might be. So the way we do this, if you're writing it out on your own, you draw a square with a cross in those, so it's 4 squares. And what you do is you take the parents. So in this first example, we're going back to tall and short pea plants. So in this first example, I have 2 plants that are going to reproduce. One plant is big T, big T. What's this plant's phenotype? Tall. It's being crossed with a plant that's little t, little t. What's its phenotype? Short. So we have a tall plant and a short plant. The way you can predict what the offspring are like is you take one of the parents and you put their genotype on the top of the Punnett square. We'll start with big T, put that at the top of the Punnett square. You then take the other parent. In this case, it's little t. You put their genotype on the side of the Punnett square. And then you combine to fill in each of the boxes. So for example, in this first box, you get a big T from up here, and a little t from over there. For this box, again, we get a big T from the top, a little t from the side. This box, big T from the top, little t from the side.
It's like the same thing.
Yeah, in this case, this is a simple example. Every box turns out to be the same. So what do you think these 4 boxes represent?
Genes.
Yeah, they have the genes in them, but
If they cross them, that's what come out.
yeah, and what do each box represents the offspring of these 2 parents. So in this case, when you have these 2 parents, they produce offspring, what genotype do you end up with?
A hybrid.
A hybrid. Big T, little t. What percent are big T, little t?
100.
What percent are big T, little t? 100, all of them. 4 out of 4 boxes. What is the phenotype of the offspring? What percent? 100. Mendel saw this. He noticed that whenever he crossed a pure tall plant with a pure recessive plant, all of the seeds grew into tall plants. There were no short plants at all. But if he crossed a different type of tall plant with a short plant, then we get the second Punnett square. So in the second Punnett square, we have a hybrid tall plant crossed with a short plant. Done?
Is there going to be a quiz on this?
Excuse me?
Is there going to be a quiz on this?
Yes.
Okay.
So, again, we do the Punnett square in the same way. We take one parent, put their genotype on top. Take the other parent, we put it on the side. Little t, little t. And then we combine to fill in the boxes. However, in this case, we get different combinations. Anna, what's going to end up in this box?
Big T, little t.
Big T from the top, little t from the side. Anita, what's going to end up in this box?
Little T, big T.
Little t from over here, or big T from over here. But we usually always write the big T first. Nate, how about this box?
Little t, a little t.
A little t from up top, a little t from the side.
Okay.
Sydney, how about here?
Lowercase, both T's.
Lowercase, both T's.
Yeah.
Okay, are you talking like Yoda now? All right, so how about what are our possible genotypes? So now we ended up with 2 possible genotypes in the offspring. What's one, John?
Big T, little T, 50%.
Yep. And the other?
Oh, can I do it? Little T, little T, 50%.
Yes. So those are our 2 possibilities. When we do these, each box is worth what percent?
25.
Yeah, there's 4 boxes. Each box is worth 25%. So 2 out of the 4 boxes have big T, little t. 2 out of the 4 have little t, little t. What phenotypes do we end up with?
Tall and short.
Tall and short. What percent of each?
50-50.
50-50. Is this becoming clear?
Giggity.
All right, for our last one, I want you to do this one. The Punnett square and the percentages on your own. And hold on. And when you're done, I want you to raise your hand so I can see if you did it correctly. So do the whole one on your own. Don't look next door. See if you can do it. If you can't, I'll explain. Make sure your capitals and lower cases are clear. How many are tall? Is this tall?
Oh.
So what should we do? Good. Good.
Giggity.
Good. Okay, this part's right, but I want you to do percentages. Yeah, do the percentages as well.
I know.
Yeah. Am I good? No, you did terrible. I did awesome. Wait, Mr. Durax. We don't have time.
Anyone need help? Yep, do that part.
Do you swear, Rod? You swear like right here.
Are we done here?
And then you have it like crevice that hangs over. Do you swear? Do you swear? Do you really swear? Suck it out. Suck it in. Are you sucking it in? You don't want any different. You have like broken knees.
He's putting his feet on the table.
Yeah, don't do that.
Danny Walker Jr.
Sound like the table.
Nicholas Charles Golan. Be quiet.
He just called you Charles.
Yeah, his middle name is Charles.
I want to see whose pencil is better. Mine's shorter.
Freaking rip.
Wait, no, that's mine. Wait,
You
mine's
do notice
like
those are
barely.
Mr. Anthony's, right?
Yeah, I know. He gave us.
Oh.
That's so mean.
How many boxes have we?
I'm gonna do your mom a favor and make you a sandwich. So weird, mom.
Favor.
His mom called me.
Sandwich. For sure, my dictionary. You don't need it.
She plays sports.
And then here you write smaller, what percent. You guys got it? Who else do I need to check?
You're such a girly girl too,
You're a girly girl.
I'm a girl though.
Each box is 25.
Yeah, Nick, you're more of a girl than a
No.
You want to
She's
girl
a
that's
man.
hurt?
You need kindergarten.
Do you hear that?
You'd be fucking.
Yes, kindergarten.
You'd be fucking. You'd be fucking from kindergarten.
That was funny.
There's something so bad short.
You don't even burn.
Yeah.
Serious.
Like,
Because if I get you on the stomach, then it just runs right off.
Yes, it would.
Yeah, you just
All right, everyone's got it?
Yeah.
No problem? Hold on. All right, look up here. Check your work. Make sure you got it right. Actually, let's do this. Sit down. Sit down.
How do we get it wrong?
The champions.
All right.
How do we get it
Joe.
wrong? We checked it.
So, what goes in the top left corner box? Joe. Yes. Rachel, how about the bottom left box? Maggie, how about top right?
big T, little T.
Jamie, bottom right. Yes. So in this case, we end up with 3 possible genotypes. Big T, big T, big T, little T, little T, little T. What percent are big T, Chris? 25. How about big T, little T, Jack? What? 50. And Dan, little T, little T.
75.
Yes. All right, what are the possible phenotypes? How many are tall, Sydney? What? And what percent are short, Anna?
25.
All right, no problem? Any questions?
No problem.
Yes,
What's
Maggie.
the laser one?
I have a question.
What?
Can we still like this for the rest of the year?
Not the I don't think the rest of the year.